Hello student, this is Palla Darbari, your host, and you are watching Palla Darbari classes. In this video, we will discuss the second chapter of Business Studies, class 11th, that is Forms of Business Organization. The topic is Joint Stock Company. This is the third video on the Joint Stock Company. If you have not seen the previous video, please check the previous videos. In this video, we will discuss the documents which is being needed for the formation of a company. Let us see the important documents that is needed for the formation of a company. For the formation of a company, we need Memorandum of Association, we need Article of Association, and we need Prospectus or Statement in lieu of Prospectus. Let us discuss the Memorandum of Association first. Memorandum of Association is a principal document of a company. When I say principal document, it means it is a very important document of a company. It is being called as a constitution of a company. Why? Because no company can be registered without a Memorandum of Association, and that is why it is sometimes called a life-giving document. The memorandum is divided into 5 clauses. The first clause is the name clause. Under the name clause, the name of the company is being mentioned. The second clause is the situation clause. Under the situation clause, the registered office of a company is being mentioned. The next is objective clause. Under the objective clause, the main objective and the other objectives of the company is mentioned. The fourth clause is the liability clause. Under the liability clause, the liability of the company is being mentioned. We know that there are two types of the liability limited by share and the liability limited by guarantee. So under the liability clause, the liability of the company is being mentioned. The next is the capital clause. Under the capital clause, the authorized capital of the company is being mentioned. Let us discuss all the clauses in detail. The first clause is the name clause. This clause states the company's proposed name. It must end with the listen. Under the name clause, the registered name of the company is being mentioned. At the time of determining the name of the company, the certain points should be kept in mind. The first is, in the case of the public company, the limited word should be affixed at the end of the name of the public company. Similarly, the private limited word should be affixed at the end of the private company's name. Remember one thing, the name should not be identical to the existing company's name. The name should not dilute to the new companies doing a business of the existing companies. It cannot allude to the new company doing the business of an existing company. It should not be misleading in any way. The name, whatever the name is being allotted or is being given, should not be misleading. The next is the registered office clause. The registered office clause lists the name of the state where the company's registered office is physically located. The registered office physical location determines which jurisdiction the registrar of a company is and which court the company would file a case. It also confirms the company's nationality. The registered office full address must be provided to the registrar of companies to simplify further communications. The next clause is the objective clause. The objective clause explains why the company is established. Companies are not legally allowed to do any kind of business other than the kind of business that is specially stated in this clause. An objective clause should contain, number 1, list of the main objectives the company will be pursuing after its incorporation. The next is incidental objectives or the other objectives that are necessary to achieve the main objectives. Any other objective which is not included in the main and incidental is also mentioned over here. Under the objective clause, the objective should not be illegal. It should not be against the public interest. It should not be against the country's general rules of law. Next is the liability clause. The liability clause explains what liability each of the company's member faces. If the company is limited by share, it means that the company's member is liable to the amount unpaid on the shares, or if it is limited by guarantee, then the members are liable to the amount guaranteed by them. The next clause is the capital clause. The capital clause lists information about the total capital held by the proposed company. This amount is called the company's authorized capital. It also tells how much money the company can raise by the issue of equity shares and how much money the company can raise by the issue of preference shares. The next is the association clause. The association clause explains that any individual signing the bottom of the memorandum of association wants to be a part of the association that's being formed by the memorandum. The memorandum of association has to be signed by at least 7 people, and these 7 people are taking the personal obligation that if anything goes wrong or if the information mentioned in the memorandum is wrong, then they will be personally responsible for it. Let us see the contents of the memorandum of association. Let us review the contents. Name clause, situation clause, objective clause, liability clause, and the capital clause. Name clause, this clause contains the name of the company. Situation clause, this clause contains the name of the state in which the registered office of the company is situated. Objective clause, this clause defines the objectives with which the company is formed. Liability clause, this clause limits the liability of the members to the amount unpaid. Capital clause, this clause simplifies the minimum capital which the company will be authorized to raise. Let us see the article of association. The article of association are the rules for the internal management of the affairs of a company. The article defines the duties, rights, and powers of the officials and the board of directors. Let us see the contents. First is the amount of capital and different classes of shares, rights of each class of shareholders, procedure for making allotment of shares, procedure for issuing certificate, procedure for forfeitures and reissue of forfeited shares, rules regarding casting of votes, procedure for selecting and removal of directors, dividend declarations, procedure for capital readjustment, and so on. The next document is the prospectus. Prospectus means any document which invites deposits from the public to purchase shares or debentures of the company. Let us see the main contents of the prospectus. First is the company's name and the address of its registered office, the main objective of the company, the number and the classes of shares, qualification shares of the directors, name and address of the directors, managing directors or managers, minimum subscription which is 90% of the size of the issues, time of opening and closing the subscription list, the amount payable on the applications and allotment of each class of shares, underwriters to the issue, merchant banks to the issues. The next is statement in lieu of prospectus. Remember one thing, if the company is unable to issue the prospectus, that in consideration of the prospectus or in place of the prospectus, the company can also issue a statement in lieu of prospectus. It is the substitute of the prospectus. A public company having a share capital may sometimes decide not to raise funds from the public, but it may be confident of obtaining the required capital privately. In such a case, it will have to title a statement in lieu of prospectus with the registrar of the company. It contains information similar to that of a prospectus. Remember one thing, mostly the statement in lieu of prospectus is issued by those public company which can raise the fund privately. Now let us discuss the last topic, that is choice of forms of a business organization. First is cost and ease of setting up the organization. The second, capital consideration. Third is nature of business. Fourth, degree of control desired. And the last one is liability or degree of risk. These are the points which we consider at the time of deciding the business organizations. Let us see the first one. The first is cost and ease in setting up organization. Sole proprietorship is easy to form and is less expensive. If the company want to start the business with less legal formalities, if the person want to start the business with the less legal formalities, then the sole proprietorship is the best option. And if the person don't have the problems in cost and they don't have any problems in the legal formalities, then they can go for the company or partnership and so on. Next is capital consideration. The business which requires less capital, then sole proprietorship can be started and the partnership form can be selected. If the huge investment is being needed to start the business, then the person should go for the company. On the basis of the nature of the business, listen, in the case of the tailoring job or the saloon, or where the complication is not there, then the sole proprietorship is opted. And in the case of the manufacturing concern, then the company is the best option. In the case of the degree of control, if the person don't have a problem in sharing the power with the other person, then the person go for the partnership or the company. And if the person want that he should hold the complete power, then he should go for the sole proprietorship. Next is liability or the degree of risk. If the person don't want to take more risk, then he should go for the company. And if risk is not the issue, then the sole proprietorship company is the options available to him. That's all we have in this video. Thanks for watching. God bless you all.